Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into Hormel Stadium here in Medford, Massachusetts, where tonight the 1-1 Boston Whitecaps play host to the perfect 2-0 DC Current here in Week 3 of the 2014 Major League Ultimate Season. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Poster here for the Boston Whitecaps. Boston shockingly defeated last week down at DC, so this really the back end of a home and home between these 2 weeks, when these two teams as really the two favorites out of the Eastern Conference. Boston really had the tables turned on them with the upset from DC with the 18-17 win, coming at the hands of Calvin Ong with a very miraculous grab off the hammer from Peter Pryal, former Boston Whitecap player in the 2013 season. Unfortunately, Pryal will be missing in this game tonight, as well as a couple of other key players for the DC Current. Sean Keegan and Brian Marshall also out for this game. But when we talk about players who are being out, one of the biggest names for Boston that you would surely hate to lose, they have lost tonight. Jeff Graham not in this game tonight. Their captain, on-field coach, and really their overall best player missing, in addition to still injured Piers McNaughton with the broken clavicle and Seth Reinhardt still out. So Alex Trahey and Jake Smart activated again from the practice squad. And we are underway. That's Alan Kolick getting it over to Cody Johnston, who's going to get some more reps in here with the offensive unit. DC starting out on offense. Paul Grabowski there on the far side, tiptoeing the sideline, gets it in the hands of Tom Doy. DC working on the far sideline. There's last week's hero, Ong, and he finds a cutting Cody Johnston, and it's already a 1-0 lead here for DC, and they wasted no time moving up that far sideline. DC set to pull with the early lead. It only took them 30 seconds to get down the field. And we'll get our first look at Boston's offense, minus superstar Jeff Graham. Jake Taylor now controlling as DC's come out strong. Here's Josh Marquette. Marquette was noticeably upset. I spoke to him after last week's game about the miss. And DC with the early D. David Cranston with the interception. Nate Castine controlling now. Gets it over to Freddie Sy. Both teams last week struggled at converting on defense, as that one just out of the outstretched hands of Matt Rebholz. Cantor reeling it in, and then Boston gets a D. Jake Taylor knocking that one down. Jake Fryer Taylor. So Boston will take over. Malachek's going to pick this one up. Guarded by Castine. On the mark. Low throw. And Jim Foster, the intended target, isn't able to come up with it, as Cranston again involved on the defensive end there, knocking it away. There's Cantor, getting it to laying out Cranston. Bobby Gordon now. Again, DC working that far side when Ben Fleming controlling, trying to put it up and a laying out grab. Nope, no good. I think he had his hand on it initially. Jake Taylor again involved defensively there, his second D of the game. So nice job there.
Taylor, very engaged on defense.
As our PA announcer, Josh McCarthy, makes it known now. Taylor, very engaged so far here defensively. The offensive handler for Boston, and now he's going to have to, well, he would have had to really catch up to that one, but he doesn't, so it'll be another turn here for Boston. DC will take over, and nice grab there for DC, and
timeout
already head coach Kevin Moldenhauer is going to call a timeout.
This time, I think it's time for
and
a
get
t-shirt
his
toss.
Offensive line back in there. He has Ong on his wing to the left, and it's going to be Offner that makes that deep cut first. Kolick not going to him, though. Instead, he'll find Tom Doy. McDonald guarding him, and in for the score is Jeff Wodach. Wodach had a nice game last week. He's picking up right where he left off. It's already 2-0 DC. DC will pull again. Boston still looking for their first point. Didn't have much luck on the offensive end there as Taylor reels it in, gets in the hands quickly to Malachek. Malachek swinging out to his right, finds Zid. Zid with his first catch of the game, dumps it back to Taylor. Taylor swings it around to Danny Clark, and Clark fumbling with it. right around that 50-yard line will lose it, and DC again will take over. So Danny Clark with a rare miss there. Usually pretty automatic for Boston. Now DC coming back, getting their defensive line trying to convert here as Ben Fleming makes that grab. Swinging it around to Maloney. Now in the hands of Salmi. Salmi with some room. DC taking their time here now on the 20-yard line. Cantor controlling. As Rebels cannot catch up to Maloney. He picks it back up. Get it back to Cantor. And Cantor will throw it away. Intended for Bobby Gordon. Jeremy Nixon.
Jeremy Nixon in the end zone. Turnover.
Jeremy Nixon of Harvard there
DC
defensively on Gordon. So Boston will take over out of their own end zone. Malachek will start things off as he walks it up. Mark will be Astro Minor. Minor had a good game last week. Several highlight reel plays. Actually, a lot of the MLU's Eastern Conference highlights came from that Boston-DC game. There's Marquette. Gets it to Zid. Boston looking like they want to center the disc. Now Rebels will put up the first hug. It's intended for Malachek. It's going to float. He's got plenty of room. Will carry him into the end zone. Makes the jump, and he is in with the little hop. Brandon Malachek on the receiving end of a nice huck from Mad Rebels. It's Boston on the board here, 2-1, with 5:10 left to go here in the first quarter. Boston on the board for the first time off the Malachek catch, and John Hirschberger is set to pull here for Boston's defense. First pull other than the opening one here for Boston. On a cool night in Medford, the rain has stopped. Was in Boston here all day. It's still overcast though. Hardly any wind as Jeff Wodach brings that one in, guarded by Hirschberg. Give him a little bit of space. Tom Doy with a nice grab there. McDonald out on him. And that one's gonna float. Hirschberger might have had a play on it, but I don't think he saw it in time. Jeff Wodach, who made the catch though, immediately turns it over, trying to get it to Kolick. And Boston will take over. Here's Brawar Jarris, one of the players notably missing, as he gets backhand to Hirschberger. Eric Stevens will flick it in, trying to get it like in the hands
Whitecaps
of
with the turn
Alex Cooper, but he can't come up with it. So DC will take over it once again. Schaffner will pick it up, right?
Alex Cooper on the
corner. He'll toss her aside the post there, and was in his way. And DC's O-line tries to get things done. One of the things Kevin Moldenhauer talked to me about before the game, head coach Kevin Moldenhauer, was DC trying to avoid falling into old habits of just kind of hanging out in the middle of the field when on a vertical stack. See guys trying to maintain that stack. Kolick swings it to Grabowski. Farnsworth on him. Farnsworth, one of the rookies here for Boston this season, playing in the mixed club team wild card. Schaffner, sliding grab there, nicely done. Now he's going to send it deep. Wodach and Doy out there. Hirschberger trying to catch up with it. Wodach, I don't know if he got a hand on it, but Hirschberger knocks it away for the D, and Boston will take over.
Hirschberger with the D for the Whitecaps.
Markham Schaffner, good game last week
for the Whitecaps
in DC. Nearly left the field with an injury in that second quarter, the big collision, but able to come back nicely here tonight as Boston takes over. Here's Hirschberger. Trying to get it to Cooper. This one's going to float, though, and Stevens, though, makes the grab. Ong was right there on him. That's almost the way Ong caught that last hammer from Pryal. McDonald now on the near sideline. Forcing the home side. And swinging around nicely was McDonald. Hirschberger will dump it back to Montgomery Butler. Given a lot of space by Kolick. He's going to throw in a hammer for Hirschberger in the end zone. Wodach right there, and John Hirschberger comes up with it as the two of them fall down to the ground, a little tangled up. You see Hirschberger give Wodach a pat on the back as he flicks the disc away. We are tied up at 2 off the hammer from Miles Montgomery Butler. 2:15 left to go here in the first quarter.
Spin pull.
Christian Foster out for his first pull for Boston as they've tied it here at 2. And Boston suffering their first loss ever as a franchise last week down at DC and looking for a little bit of revenge at home tonight on a cloudy, cool night. Game time temperature right around 45 degrees as Kolick swings that one up. Back to Kolick as Ingold Smith, who was another player absent, the task of guarding Kolick, and now DC throws that away. Alex Simmons will pick it up. Christian Foster is wide open there in the end zone, and he able to make the grab, staying in. Excuse me, Jack Hatchett with the goal. He kind of threw up his arms and said, hey, I'm all alone. So Alex Simmons with the assist, Hatchett, the Axeman, with the goal. 3-2 Boston. John Hirschberger will pull once again here for Boston.
For the Whitecaps.
Up 3-2 now. And DC will take over again. Nate Castine getting that first catch. Here's Wodach. Thought about pucking it against Hirschberger right at that 50-yard line. Quick give and go pass. Wodach will get it back, one-handed grab. Again, Hirschberger giving him some space, tempting him. As Castine gets that catch, still holding it. Montgomery Butler out on him as Brent Bellinger makes that catch. And a layout attempt there is no good. Boston will get it back.
DC current.
So Montgomery Butler picking it up here, swinging it over to Cooper. Bellinger was the one who had the drop for DC. It's Cooper now deep in his own end zone. Swings it around. And I believe we're going to get a timeout by Boston. Yeah, Sam Rosenthal will look to get his offensive line out. Raina Malachek will pick up the disc. DC again would love to try and tempt him into those long bombs. Clark getting that catch, immediately dumps it back to Taylor. Taylor with a lot of space now. Mark comes up on him. Clark gets it back. Danny on that far sideline. Hits it in the hands of Malachek, though. A couple of DC players were right there. Jim Foster, his first grab. Jeremy Nixon now involved here on the offensive end and finds Danny Clark in the end zone.
Danny Clark.
First score of the night here for Clark. Jeremy Nixon.
Assisted by Jeremy Nixon.
Christian Foster out again this pull here for Boston. Foster, another one of those guys on Boston, like that 180-degree turn there as he makes the pull. Brower Jarvis, another one of those guys. Here's Kolick. Now in the hands of Johnston. Kevin Moldenhauer said that Cody Johnson was going to get a lot more looks here on the offensive end, especially with Peter Pryal out. Look at this give and go here right now with Kolick and Eddie Peters. Schaffner with a little scuba, and Jeff Wodach once again his second score of the game. It was a nice set of moves there with Kolick and Peters moving the disc up quickly. So it is 4-3. Just as time expires here in the first quarter. Hi everybody, welcome back to Hormel Stadium here in Medford, Massachusetts. Start of the second quarter. Boston on top, 4-3. But as we just heard the PA announcer Josh McCarthy say, a fairly low-scoring first quarter. Saw DC go ahead 2-0. Boston went on a 4-0 run before the current
to the Whitecaps.
And found Jeff Wodach for his already second score of the game just as time expired in the first quarter. In any sport, really, it's important to close out quarters, halves, periods, whatnot strong, as it will help them give momentum moving forward. So we'll see if DC's D-line can pick up on the momentum there. O-line left there right at the end of the first quarter. Get a turn here and tie things up with Boston. Boston, of course, falling victim the first time ever to DC last weekend down in our nation's capital at Cardinal Stadium, the new home of the Current on the campus of Catholic University. And very much looking forward to this home matchup as Matt Rebels brings in the pull, gets it to Malachek, finds Danny Clark way ahead of the pack. Clark will a high flick as Rebels can't catch up to it, and there you go, DC gets a turn. Clark has had 2 drops already tonight. Though I don't think he had a hand on that one at all. Matt Gordon, twin brother Bobby Gordon, as Castine now in control, dumps it back to Cy. Nice sliding grab there by Gordon, Matt Gordon. Castine picking that one up and in for the score. David Cranston had a couple of nice D's earlier already. And Cranston ties things up here, 4-4, 9:16 left to go. So another quick point off the turn from Danny Clark has things knotted up at 4.
Tie game.
DC set to pull once again as we are knotted up at 4. Eric Salmi with the pull, a short one. Fall right at about the 30-yard line. Jake Taylor picking up. Matt Rebels still looking for his first win in the MLU as he was missing from the Week 1 game. Josh Marquette controlling, trying to dump it back to Taylor. He does. Taylor trying to get around a good mark from Salmi. Now Malachek's going to put his first huck up. It's Marquette streaking down the field and an easy grab for Cricket.
Beautiful big inside-out backhand from Brandon
The inside-out backhand there from Malachek finds Marquette
score.
streaking into the end zone and getting Boston back up on top, 5-4. Couple of throws and an easy point there for Boston. 5-4, Boston on top, 8:48 left to go. John Hirschberger ready to pull for Boston. It's gone back and forth, really, ever since Boston made that 4-0 run. And Hirschberger's pull will land right at about the 20-yard line. And Kolick will control once again. Kolick still without a throwaway this season. It's been very impressive as he finds Schaffner all alone. Cooper giving him a lot of room to work. Kolick gets it right back. Long now. DC very content with that dump swing, and now they're going to try and send it out to Peters. And Peters with a leaping grab into the end zone.
With the score for the Current.
So DC, a nice job there, biding their time. A couple of swings.
Assisted by Lloyd.
Some swing plays, and they find Peters with a nice cut. Striking cut to the corner of the end zone for the score. Knotted up at 5. Once again, we are all tied up. DC will pull off the arm of Nate Castine, and Taylor will make the catch. Here's Rebels. Matt was added to this Boston team to give him some more firepower as an O-line handler, and we're going to have our first foul of the game.
Foul on the Current.
Like Delrico Johnson there on the foul against Danny Clark, so he'll walk it up 10 yards. Rebels getting tangled up, falls on the ground again with Bellinger, making the grab though. Here's Malachek, already has 1 assist in this one and a score, so 2 points for him. Taylor in control, back to Rebels. Boston with those short throws, moving it up the field effectively right now, trying to get it into Clark, who just beats Johnson down the field, and then Clark will find That's Jim Foster
with the score for the Whitecaps.
all alone.
Assisted by Danny Clark.
Danny Clark was one step ahead of Delrico Johnson, who slid to the ground, and it gave Clark perfect time to find Jim Foster with a nice cut. The Whitecaps back on top, 6-5 here in the second. Christian Foster to pull once more here for Boston. They're on top 6-5. I mentioned Delrico Johnson looked like he slipped there a little. There was a lot of rain in Boston today, so this turf field probably a little slick tonight. And costly for DC there as Danny Clark was able to get the assist. That's Grabowski guarded by Doherty, slipping right through Simmons and Schaffner trying to keep up with him. Tom Doy, the sliding grab, gets it back to Kolek. Nice grab there with Kolek. Immediately flicking it in and out the back. Ong made the catch, but
out of bounds.
it's out of bounds out the back of the end zone. So Boston will take over. Now, while it wasn't a drop or a throwaway by Kolek, it might have been his first pass.
Kolek with the uncharacteristic turnover there.
That results in a turnover. Even though Ong did make the catch. Anyway, Boston back out with their D-line now playing offense. Jack Hatchett controlling. Wodach guarding him, and the pass intended for Christian Foster knocked away by Kolek. So he makes up for his very rare miscue and immediately gets the D. And now stuck on the corner of the sideline. Boston will get a turnover.
Travel.
Actually, they're going to call a travel. I think that was Cody Johnston there on that far corner. So, they call travel. I thought it might have been a stall. Either way, Boston gets the disc. Hatchett with the huck, looking for Doherty. And Sean Doherty, jetting, is not inside. Not in, so he'll dump it back as Simmons gets tangled up, and there's going to be a foul right there. And Simmons got hit from behind right after he made the catch.
Defensive foul on the current.
Nowhere really to move, though, 10 yards, so I'll just keep it right there. And Stevens trying to lay out and make that grab from Simmons, can't do it. And another turnover here for Boston. 5:03 left to go in the first half. Boston still on top, 6-5.
On this point.
And already a pretty long point here. As Kolek will walk it back in.
Timeout called by the current.
And DC will call timeout. Second one here in the first half, so that'll be their last one.
Yeah, so I think we got some giveaways here.
No substitutions on this timeout, but sure Kevin Moldenhauer just wants to talk things over, maybe get his guys a little bit of a breather. 4:48
Fans, let's hear it. Come on.
left to go.
There we go.
6-5, Boston on top.
Fresh D-line. Somewhat fresh D-line on the field.
Boston gets some defensive substitutions in. Brower Jarvis, one of them, McDonald, another. As Sam Rosenthal took advantage of that timeout.
To start with it for the current.
Rosenthal pretty much will work with the defense of Boston. Tom Matthews, the assistant, will pretty much work with the O-line. As DC taking over. And Farnsworth nearly had a D there, and
Foul
Ong
on the Whitecaps.
gets run over. That's Jake Smart.
Additional penalties forthcoming.
Jake Smart, one of the players here for Sam Rosenthal, filling in for some of the injuries Whitecaps have suffered early in the season. So Ong will get to take it up 10 yards, right at about the 40-yard line, and we'll tap it in. Calvin Ong gets it to Kolek. Kolek trying to get around Montgomery Butler. Wodach now. Farnsworth. Wodach is going to put that one up. He's got two players right there in the end zone, and Schaffner's the one who grabs it, though. He took a hit. He is in for the score as Hirschberger and Schaffner collided. Excuse me, no, that's Grabowski. My mistake. Paul Grabowski with the score. 4:12 left to go in the first half, all tied at 6. Very similar to last week's game down in D.C. between these two teams, as Maloney with the pull. And very short one. Marquette picks it up, gets it to Malachek. Again, Boston playing without their star player, Jeff Graham. And D.C. also without a couple of their big guys, Sean Keegan, Peter Pryl, and Brian Marshall all out on the long trip up from Washington, D.C. And we're going to get a whistle away from the disc.
Pick.
We can call a pick
On the Whitecaps.
on Boston. So, while not turnover, Malachek will have to take 10 yards back. And Boston will maintain possession here. Rebels gets it over to Christian Foster. Now in the hands of Marquette. Zid with the grab. Back to Rebels. Marquette once again. Forcing him to his backhand. Zid swings it around to Rebels. High flick. Nixon able to follow it, read it, and bring it in for the score.
For the Whitecaps.
The young Jeremy Nixon, the youngest player on the team,
Rebels.
makes it 7-6 here at Hormel Stadium. 2 ticks over 3 minutes left to go here in the first half. Teddy Brouwer-Jarris to get in his first pull. He's the other guy who makes that spin around pull, and it is a good one.
Sky ball.
They'll float for a little while and land right at the 25-yard line. Quick pass over to Kolick. Well, he was the intended receiver, but Jack Hatchett intercepts it. Ingold Smith gets the quick grab. Now Simmons, he's going to put a low huck in for Hatchett, trying for the bookends, and he gets them.
With the double happiness.
Jack Hatchett,
Score.
second score of the night. He got the D to start things off.
Simmons.
Pass was intended for Kolick. Hatchett made him pay, makes it 8-6. 2:44 left to go. John Hirschberger once again pulling here for Boston. As Whitecaps now with a 2-goal lead. Hirschberger's pull, a good one. Loaded all the way into the 10-yard line. Cody Johnson making the catch. Long up ahead to Schaffner. Calvin Ong dumps it back to Schaffner. In the hands of Tom Doy. Kolick receives that one. Now he's going to put up. And Kolick with his second turnover of the game. Intercepted that time. Now Lee Farnsworth, he's going to try and catch up to this one. Will he lay out? He will not. And it'll sail just out of the reach of Lee Farnsworth.
Current with another chance.
Farnsworth, surprisingly, doesn't catch up to that one. Farnsworth pretty, I've said, deceptively fast. He's a bigger guy, but definitely has some speed in his legs. And might have had a chance on that one, but it'll sail just a ways away from him. Schaffner, a quick dump back to Ong. Get it in the hands of Wodach. Jeff. Oh, flick to Doy. And now we're going to get a whistle. Another pick. Against Boston. I don't know, we can say it's against DC, so 10-yard penalty here as Schaffner will back it up and play will resume. Wodach gets that one. Tom Doy. Schaffner right at midfield. Doy, a nice pass in the hands of Johnston. Johnston trying to somewhat fill the shoes of Peter Pryal tonight. Big shoes to fill, but he's done a nice job. DC needs to tap that one in. That's Peters. And it's Kolick on the receiving end of that one. Alan Kolick, who's had 2 turnovers in this game, very uncharacteristically.
Kolick
Gets
with
the
the
score
for
and
the current, assisted by
makes it
Marco.
just a 1-goal game here. 8-7, 35
35
seconds left to go.
on the game clock.
Here in the first half,
Before
it'll be
halftime,
interesting to see
35
how
seconds.
Boston decides to play this. Point from DC, so Boston will, as I just said, have 35 seconds. Imagine they'll get a couple of swings around though. Malachek, always that deep threat, has it now, gets it to Taylor. It gets it right back to Malachek, centering the disc. Little hammer there to Marquette. Boston moving pretty quick here, down to 20 seconds. Rebels are gonna go for Nixon. He catches up to it and reels it in. Jeremy Nixon with an impressive night so far.
For the Whitecaps.
Nixon, the young man from Harvard. Second score of the night makes it 9-7.
Boston does
And
leave
DC
14 seconds
will get
on the
a
clock,
chance here with 14
before
seconds to close out the
halftime.
half.
Jarris with
Teddy
the
Brower,
big time
Jarris with the big pull. Well, they actually had 2 seconds back on, 16 seconds. DC was able to capitalize at the end of the first quarter as time expired. We saw how they capitalized, and they can't do it here, so Boston will get a chance. 8 seconds left to go, and they do get it in for a score. Actually, no, hang on, we're going to get a whistle. And I think Boston used their second timeout right
Timeout
as
called
they
by
picked
the
up
Whitecaps coaching staff.
the disc. Sam Rosenthal called timeout to make a substitution. Well, 8 seconds remain on the clock here. Boston up 9-7 here as the second quarter about to expire. As 2 teams ready to head into halftime. They had the point in for a score, but Sam Rosenthal, head coach of the Whitecaps, called a timeout.
Marquette to pick
Right
up
as
for the Whitecaps.
Boston was about to score, so Marquette will control. He's gonna move. Scuba throw in the hands of Jim Foster, and he can't connect with Jeremy Nixon, and that'll do it for
Maybe
the
let's just call it a half.
end of the first half. Now they're gonna give DC a chance here. I think they might be
Or
1 second.
We'll put 1 second on the clock. For the 85-yard
2
line.
seconds on this clock. DC will get 1 chance at a huck. See what they can do with it. They work it down the sideline, and it's just going to be D'd
Intercepted by Marquette.
by Josh Marquette. Will get credit for that D, as he
Whitecaps
made a little
up 2,
spinning
9
style
7.
point grab right there. So that'll do it for the first half. Boston on top, 9-7. Fairly low-scoring game here in the cool night at Hormel Stadium in Medford. Don't go anywhere, though. Second half action coming up in just a bit. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium here as we get set for the second half action. Jeff Poster here for the Boston
Back on the
Whitecaps
field, Current.
as they play host to the DC
Headed back
Current.
on the field.
These 2 teams met last week, of course. It's a big storyline across the MLU. DC being the first team to beat Boston in really their short franchise history. It's a 9-7 game. Boston on top by 2. Go over some first half stats. 9 goals scored by Boston. Malachek with 1, Hirschberger with 1. Jack Hatchett and Jeremy Nixon each had 2 apiece. Hatchett with the bookends. And the remaining 3 were scored by Clark, Marquette, and Jim Foster. DC on the other side, Cody Johnston with 1 goal, Jeff Wodach with 2, David Cranston with a goal, as well as Eddie Peters, Grabowski, and Kolick involved there. Though one of the big stories was Alan Kolick, first 2 turnovers of the season in that first half. He had 1 pass intended for Calvin Ung that went out the back of the end zone, and then another that was just intercepted. So DC will start things off here in the third quarter.
For the Current.
And Kolick right on cue to begin things, finding Tom Doy. Peters now. And we're going to get a whistle. See if there was a foul there.
Call on the field.
DC dropped it, but I believe there's going to be a foul.
Disc spell.
Doherty in on the action there. And now Boston knocks it away for the D. So they'll take over. Difficult to tell who had the D there.
Foster with the D.
Josh McCarthy again, our PA announcer, very entertaining. He's not even able to tell, but it is Christian Foster getting the D. Simmons controlling. And pass and reeled in by Ingold Smith. Hatchett's long throw, and they're not going to be able to be caught up by anybody on this field.
No, Foster open.
Christian Foster, the intended target. Can't catch up to it though, and so DC will get it right back. .38 left to go in the third quarter. Already a couple of turns on both sides on this point. DC now moving quickly. Tom Doig trying to get it up to Wodach. He reels it in. On that far side, and it'll be Peters trying to get it. But Christian Foster with a nice read of the disc. Takes it right back. Sliding grab there by Simmons. Ahead to Hatchett. Hatchett almost in the same exact place he was a couple of minutes ago on his last huck. Said he'll dump it back. Stevens with the grab. Over to Simmons. Simmons getting it right back to Stevens. Up ahead to Hatchett. Boston trying to swing it around. Simmons gets it now on this near side, home side. Fakes a huck. Hold it in without a mark. Now Stevens again has it. Terry Roth, I believe that's his first grab of the game. Stevens with some room now, and he finds Doherty making a nice cut. Sean Doherty with his first score of the game. 7:27 left to go. Teddy Brower-Ajaris can try and roll this one. And it's stopped right at the 30-yard line. DC now down 3 scores. This is normally Boston's go-to quarter. The third quarter is when they like to make their runs. They made a run against New York in the third. They made a run against DC in the third last week. Wasn't enough. Brent Bellinger controlling. So ahead to Cranston. Cranston swinging it around. Lloyd Blake. First grab there. Cantor trying to work against Farnsworth. Freddie Sy now. Getting it back to Castine. And a quick score right there. Nice cut in the back of the end zone. DC gets one back, 10-8 with 6:35 left to go in the third. Robert Dulabon gets the goal, making it 10-8, 6:35 left to go in the third. DC will pull. Eric Salmi with the pull. One of the interesting storylines going into this game was that Boston, obviously coming off a loss, they had never experienced that, so it was going to be interesting to see if they could actually respond. So far, so good, as Jake Taylor makes that grab. Rebels with the catch. Ahead to Jim Foster. And in for the score once again.
Foster!
As Jim Foster actually made the grab, Danny Clark with the throw.
By Danny Clark.
Christian Foster will pull once again for Boston. couple of DC fans in the house tonight. Team on the sidelines tries to get them cheering and pumped up. Eddie Peters now with that grab. Head to Schaffner. Schaffner.
Big bomb from Schaffner.
Not going to be able to catch up to that one.
Out of bounds.
So Schaffner showing his ability on the hook. That's the nickname, the Ginger Cannon. But unable to connect that time. Tom Doy deep in the end zone. We'll see if get another look at him later on. Terry Roth with the grab. Swings it around to Stevens. Christian Foster making that long cut, the deep cut. Is he going to be able to get there? He does. Christian Foster beating out his
DC current player down on the field.
Man,
Eric
defensive
Stevens
side.
with the flick assist.
Can't tell who's coming up limping there. .5:18 left to go here in the third quarter. John Hirschberger set to pull. Jeff Wodach was the DC defender on Christian Foster on that last play as Hirschberger also rolls it, and it's going to roll out of bounds right at about the 35-yard line. Mark it at the 36, actually. So Wodach now on the bench being looked at by the Boston trainer.
Surely we have an extra disc on hand.
Keep an eye on him, see what his status is. Wodach has had a nice game, an assist and 2 goals in the first half. That would be a big loss for DC.
Double team.
Was able to walk off basically under his own power. But here's DC's O-line again as Cantor trying to swing it around Farnsworth. Over to Bellinger. Bellinger gets it to Sy. Sy taking his time. No mark, now there is. As Blake grabs it. Sy gets it right back, though, and not having much luck. DC swinging around Cole, finally getting into Kolek's hand. That's the guy they wanted in the hands of. And a little miscommunication there between Cranston and Sy as Cranston threw the disc behind Sy, who's still making that cut. And so Boston will take over. 4:24 left to go in the third quarter. Always frustrating making that throw and seeing it just go right behind someone who's made a good cut. Rawar Jarris in control of the disc. And
the Whitecaps.
again,
Looked like it was just prior to that throwaway.
looks like Sam Rosenthal calls timeout just as Rawar Jarris was about to release the disc. And it's a good thing, too, because Teddy would have turned it over. 4:09 left to go after the timeout. Boston gets their O-line in there. Malachek starting things off. And they head into Josh Marquette now. Rebels had a touch in there, too. Marquette dancing around his defender. Now he's going to take off the back of the stack. Rebels looking to go to him. Gets it on the in cut. Marquette directing traffic now, and we're going to get another whistle. This one coming from the back. I think we're going to have a pick.
Ball on the field. Pick. Pick called, 10-yard penalty.
A pick against Boston. I think it was Nixon, actually, who got called for it. So that'll push him back. Take any little bit of momentum out. Scuba from Marquette into the hands of Clark. Clark with a lot of space. Now the dump defender comes up and harasses him a little. Jake Taylor up to Rebels. Rebels trying to get that backhand, so it'll go to a Scuba to Taylor. DC cutting off that backhand huck from Boston as Marquette gets the flick. Now on the far side.
A lot of handler action out of the Whitecaps.
Back to Rebels. They swing around and get it in the hands of Malachek. Malachek, who was called for the foul at the end of the game last week that resulted in DC's second chance. Now he's going to get a chance to score, and he does. The Muffin Man with his second goal tonight. Third point for Malachek with the assist earlier makes it 13-8. Boston starting to pull away here with 2:35 left to go in the third. 2:35 left to go in the third quarter. Christian Foster will pull once again.
Spin pull.
With that spin pull. 13-8 the score. Boston on top by 5. Largest lead of the game for either side. Pretty much back and forth throughout that first half, and now we're going to get a foul as Grabowski and Simmons.
Number 12,
Alex Simmons getting a little too close. Paul Grabowski. Grabowski with a highlight reel catch last week as he had a layout into the end zone early. Now he's going to get another chance, and this one will sail away.
Turnover.
And Boston will take over. I don't know if Grabowski was looking for that one. Looked like he might have had a late jump on his cut there after the throw was made. So Boston will take over, and we'll start in a vertical stack. You see Christian Foster faking a couple of cuts. Now he's got some room. And Foster draws a whistle.
Hooking foul on Foster.
So Boston will take it up 10 more yards. Nice one-handed grab there from Hatchett. Jack's had a nice game tonight. Bookends play earlier. He's got 2 goals. Sean Doherty with a nice one-handed snag right there. Up ahead to Christian Foster, just reaching it over. Now he's going to put up a hammer looking for Terry Roth in the end zone, and it's knocked away. I believe that was Tom Doy. Now he's a little shaken up. Terry Roth is also going to come off the field for Boston. Lee Farnsworth checks in. 1 tick under a minute left here in the third quarter. Still 13-8, Boston on top. Here in week 3, Boston trying to get a little bit of revenge against DC from last week. There's a nice layout grab there. Nate Castine with the grab. Gets it to Kolick. Jeff Wodach back on the field, so good to see him back out there as he was the last DC player to go down. Guarded by Farnsworth, who just came in. Ong with a flick to his right. Gets ahead to Castine again. Kolick with a nice leaping one-handed grab. There's 4 seconds left to go. DC's going to have to make their move, and they're not going to connect there in the end zone. And that's how the third quarter will end. We have 3 in the books, and Boston's got 5 on top of the lead, 13-8. Fourth quarter coming up here. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium here in Medford, Massachusetts. Start of the fourth quarter. Boston on top of DC, 13-8. And had a nice run there in that third quarter. They outscored DC 5-1. And that one just over the head of Josh Marquette. The throw from Zid with the turnover. So just what DC needed, a quick turn. Have to score quick here. Salmi picks it up, taps it in. Now over to Maloney. Astro Minor. Head back to Salmi. Minor gets it back. Nixon coming up to cover him. Place the mark. Marquette is going to have a play on that. Picks it off. And now Malachek will float one out. And into the hands of Zid. He's not in, though. 5 yards out. Dumps it back to Nixon. Jeremy's had a nice game tonight. Swings it around to Malachek. Rebels as DC's backing up Boston nicely here. Jim Foster controlling now. Dumps it back to Rebels. Again, continuing to push him back, all the way back to about now at the 40-yard line. Don't really use the yard markers in Ultimate, but they're there, so we can use them to just say they've been pushed back about 35 yards now. Malachek gets it again, and he's going to put it now into the end zone. The Birdman, Danny Clark, finally, after a lot of swings and dumps, Boston able to get their 14th point and a 6-goal lead. And they ate a lot of time. 8:09 left to go here in the fourth quarter. Boston up 14-8 as John Hirschberger is a big pull. Boston just trying to put this one away. Very nice pull from John Hirschberger. That's probably the best one we've seen tonight. Eddie Peters having some trouble. Finally gets it around to Ong. That's Kolick. Getting it to Doy. Dumps it back to Kolick. Quick throw. Hirschberger's got a hand on it. Wodach lays out, trying to recover. He can't do it, so Hirschberger with the D. And we'll start things off again. Brouwer Jarris. Flip to Trahey. No grab by Cooper. And DC gets a D right back. Lloyd Blake with the D. And now they're going to huck this one deep for Wodach, and he will find the end zone for DC's 9th goal. 7:02 left to go. DC gets one back, cuts it to 5. I stand corrected. It was Calvin Ong who had the assist on that last goal, not Kolick. As Jeff Wodach with his 3rd score of the game. Here's Rebels. Dumps it back to Taylor. Taylor finds a cutting Foster. Ahead to Ingold's. Christian Foster out there with the O-line now. Saw that a lot last week when Sam Rosenthal and Kevin Moldenhauer, for that matter, had used up their timeouts before the 4th quarter. They had to mix up their lines. That's not the case tonight, as Malachek floats one in, and it's going to soar out of bounds. Looks like he is intending it for Christian Foster. Jeremy Nixon also right there. So DC will take over. 6:11 left to go. Still trailing by 5, but not out of it. They've shown an ability to score quick, and that's what they're going to need to do. Dulabon gets it ahead to David Boylan Colchin. Castine now, he's going to send a huck out, and Delrico Johnson reels it in. But they're going to call a travel on Castine.
That is a turnover.
As part of the new rules this year in the MLU, traveling is no longer just a 10-yard penalty, but will be a turnover. So Boston will get it back and in pretty favorable field position. 5:20 left to go. And Malachek will start things off. Let's see if Boston now, when they have the disc, if they elect to take their time a little bit. Here's Jim Foster, a hammer to Marquette, and he's in for the score.
Marquette
The Cricket
with the score, and
gets another score and another point for his stats tonight, his 2nd one of the night. Jim Foster with the assist and gets that 6-goal lead, 15-9. Right back for Boston. 5:05 left to go in the game. 5:05 left to go, 15-9 the score. Boston on top and well in control. As Hatchett with the pull is a good one. Well into the end zone. Kolek now. Swing it around. Gets it right back. Alan Kolek. Fun player to watch, especially if you're a handler out there. You see, he makes that catch, and now here's Schaffner with a deep huck, trying to get it to Peters. Farns with a leap up, and it's Peters who makes a grab, and they get it in for the score. Actually, Jeff Wodach got the grab, and gets it ahead to Grabowski off the big huck from the Ginger Cannon himself, Markham Schaffner. .428 left to go. Markham Schaffner with really the hockey assist on that last one. The throw to the assist as Matt Rebels reels in the pull. Malachek, low throw, gets in the hands of Brower Jarris. Again, Sam Rosenthal mixing up his lines a little bit here. Brower Jarris typically defensive line cutter as he's making a deep cut to the end zone. Now he's going to reel it back in. Rebels grabs that one. Swings it around to Malachek. Rebels grabs it. And a nice grab there from Jim Foster. Kind of an awkward reach and dance there.
From Matt
Rebels making the toss. And he will roll this one. It's going to stop right in front of the 20-yard line. Well, DC got a quick score the last time they were out here. Let's see if they try and go for that again. Kolek, though, kind of taking his time, dumping it back to Blake. Kolek trying to dance around his defender, Cooper. He does. Blake swinging up to Schaffner. Schaffner had the big huck last time. This time he's pinned to that sideline by McDonald. He throws it away. Christian Foster with the D. He's had a couple of those tonight. And now Cooper will hammer it, looking for McDonald in the end zone, and he's tied up with Schaffner, who knocks it away as McDonald goes down. Low throw is gathered up. Nate Castine with that catch and throw. Get it back to Kolek. Kolek with his huck. Wodach making the cut, and he's going to catch up to it ahead of Jake Smart. Jeff Wodach, fourth score of the game. He's had an impressive night. 16-11 now. 2:56 left to go. DC's defense, though, is got to make a couple of stops here if they want to get back in this. .256 left to go. DC will pull and send it deep. Trailing by 5. They need a D. Taylor reels it in, and Malachek once again sets up in the middle of the field. Nixon beating his man, and he's going to put up a huck, trying to get it to Marquette. He's got a lot of defenders coming in, and he can't bring it in. And he does look, he took a fall there. He seems to be okay, right up on his feet. David Boylan Colchin was right there defensively. Might have gotten a hand on it, but. So DC gets the D they need. Nate Castine now up ahead to Cantor. Getting it in the hands of Dulabon. Dulabon nearly double team there. Jake Taylor trying to find his man. Boston O-line strictly playing a man-to-man defense. Nice grab there by Cranston. Cranston floats it up ahead to Sy. Now Sy kind of pinned down, will be double teamed. Nixon and Malachek, but they find, I believe that's Cantor. They get a break. Makes it a 4-point game, though. We are under 2 minutes. 16-12 the score, 1:52 left to go. DC two quick points here in the fourth quarter. It's really that third quarter that did them in. Only were able to find the end zone one time to Boston's 5. Malachek will just let it fall in front of him. Gets it around and in the hands of Marquette. Marquette finds Brower Jarris. Again, back on the O-line. Teddy typically on the D-line. Cooper also out on the O-line. Head to Christian Foster, and they find a cutting Marquette into the end zone. I believe that was 4 passes on that entire sequence there for Boston's O-line to make it 17-12. Boston set to pull. Jack Hatchett's going to pull again, his second one of the night. 1:33 left to go, 17-12 to score. And DC again has to move quick here. They're kind of taking their time, setting up that stack. And there's a turn. Nate Castine had it and lost it. Simmons gets it back, and this is where Boston can feed on you off your mistakes. You're going to get a foul away from the disc against DC. So Alex Simmons will take it up 10 yards. Fakes a big hammer. Trying to get Castine to buy in. He doesn't.
Keep away.
As Ingold Smith now in control. Terry Roth back on the field. Good to see. As Eric Stevens now throws it away. DC will get that turnover. Castine gets it right back after he lost it before. And I believe we have a timeout. No, it's going to be a foul. Foul against Boston. DC will walk it up another 10 yards. David Cranston controlling. Trying to get it around bigger Farnsworth. Into the hands of Castine. Now a Huck. Wodach again back there. But it's Cranston. He's going to say he's not in. He made the jump after the catch, I guess. And now with the whistle, DC will get a chance to bring their guys upfield. Not sure. And get that whistle because he was not in. So actually gonna have him back up a couple of yards.
Significant penalty there.
So a big loss of yards there for Cranston after he was nearly in. They get it in the hands of Schaffner, trying to get around Boston's defense. Things a Huck out the back of the end zone. He had a couple of different guys who might have been able to grab it, but we do have an injury on the field.
Looks like there's still some time on the clock.
And so Boston will get one more play out of this with 4 seconds left to go. And they are going to come away with the victory and a little bit of payback after DC was able to finally end their streak. Boston will improve to 2-1. DC will fall to 2-1, and the two will be tied atop the East ahead of both New York and Philadelphia, who also play tonight. And there will be no throw. That's going to be how the game ends. Boston takes a victory here, 17-12. As I just said, they will improve to 2-1. DC falls to 2-1. But these teams now locked at the top of the Eastern Conference. And I imagine will be fighting each other for position for the rest of this season. That's going to do it here for our coverage tonight. On behalf of our camera person, Colin Horton, I'm Jeff Poster, and the rest of the MLU. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.